Hey everyone, this is Professor Walia talking. So what I'm going to do right now is go through a sample anonymous response from June 3rd. You'll remember you guys had a lot of fun writing about Eulachon, shrimp, and all of those fun things. So we're going to look at that, an example of that response, and talk about what does work and talk about what doesn't work. Okay, so let me first make sure this is full screen. I apologize. I guess that's as full as it'll get. All right, perfect. So now this wasn't here. Let me get rid of this. So we start off with Eulachon are in danger of becoming extinct, which raises concerns to shrimpers because they want to avoid regulations that might affect their industry. So what I'm going to go through now is something related to sentence structure. So for those of you who know sentence structure, like the back of your hand, fast forward me. For those of you who don't, get a pen and paper because I'm going to go through something that hopefully will make things easier for you. So when it comes to sentence structure, there are a number of different types of sentences, but the one that we most commonly, and you'll see, maybe I should make this a different font so that you could see. Cambria. That didn't really do anything, did it? There I am. Okay, so this is me right now. Complex sentences. And what complex sentences are, there are sentences that include a type of clause known as an independent clause and a dependent clause. Now, what an independent clause is a clause in which there is a clear subject and a clear verb. So an example of that would be, she went to the store. Why is this independent? Well, if someone came up to, let's say, D'Angela and said, hey, she went to the store, D'Angela wouldn't look at that person and say, you're crazy, I have no idea what you're talking about. She would know who the person is in the sentence, and she would know what they actually did. The she is the who, and the went, right, is the verb. And because of that, this is an independent clause. Now, what a dependent clause is, it would be something like, went to the store because she went to the store. Now, notice, went to the store has no subject, and for that reason, we immediately know it's dependent. If you put a period after, if you put a period here, right, this would be what's known as a fragment, and this is something that you never want to have in any paper, but especially for the ALST exam. So when you see that your sentence has no clear subject, you immediately want to revise it. Okay, went to the store, who went to the store? Oh, it was that she person, right? And so then that now becomes grammatically correct. Then we have something here, because she went to the store. Now, the trick here is because when it starts off a sentence, and I know maybe in grade school and high school we were taught that because can never start a sentence. It actually can. However, it can't be, it can't start a sentence that is an independent clause. So if you see here, because she went to the store, we might say, oh, this is an independent clause because look, she is the subject and went is the verb. In fact, that's not true because this word here is acting as a subordinating conjunction. And what a subordinating conjunction means is, I will be here to start off your sentence, but somewhere after my clause is done, please give me a comma. So, because she went to the store, assuming this is where the clause is over, comma, what happened? So because she went to the store, she was late for class. This is something that a lot of us are forgetting, or a lot of us are just unfamiliar with. So I want you to, rewatch this, or if you want, you can get a textbook that talks about these rules. For me, this is the simplest way that I can talk about the complex sentence structure. So you'll see, ultimately what I'm saying is, if you have a dependent clause that starts off your complex sentence, there must be a comma and then the independent clause, right? So the example here is, because she went to the store, that's dependent. She was late for class, that's independent. Now I want to show you some others, and the way to know whether or not you need a comma in the middle is if you have one of these subordinating conjunctions starting your sentence off. So examples would be because, while, if, after, although, let's see, I'm drawing a blank now, whenever, whichever. All of these are subordinating conjunctions. So, and there are more. There are many more. If you want to Google subordinating conjunctions, you can get a list. It's, I think, about 100 conjunctions that in total. So by no means are you ever going to be able to memorize it. However, these are the ones that we traditionally use in sentences, so it's a good idea to remember these. So again, whenever you have a sentence that starts off with any of these phrases, there should be a comma after the clause is done, and then following should be an independent clause. And an independent clause, you remember, is where there's a clear subject and a clear verb. So let's now talk about the other kind of complex sentence, and that is one where you have an independent clause and a dependent clause. And that's where this paper comes in. So, I'm sorry, it's right here. Okay, so this is where this sentence comes in. When you have an independent clause, that is a clause that has its own subject and a verb, and following this clause is a dependent clause, that is a clause that does not have a clear subject and or a clear verb, or a sentence that starts with because, while, if, after, although, whenever, whichever, etc., there does not need to be any comma. I'm going to show you a video within this video. It's very matrixy, that actually has a little, it's cute, it's corny. The phrase is, when you have a dependent clause after an independent clause, avoid the drama, get rid of the comma, right? So if that helps you, that's one way to remember. So let's go here. Eulachon are in danger of becoming extinct, which raises concern to shrimpers because they want to avoid regulations that might affect their industry. So you'll see which, hopefully you guys are all jumping up and down. That's what's known as, oh, and I didn't put it here, but that's another subordinating conjunction. So if we have which, right, starting off this clause, that means it's dependent. And now let's look at this. Eulachon are in danger of becoming extinct. Is this independent? Is there a clear subject? Yes, Eulachon. Is there a clear verb? Yes, are, right? To be, are. They are in danger. So that's a clear independent clause. Now, if we have an independent clause and then what follows it is a dependent clause, what do we need? Hopefully you all just said it. Avoid the drama, get rid of the comma. You need nothing. That's it. The other thing, and a lot of us are struggling with this, there's no real way to teach this as much as it's practice. Know the differences between words that you will use a lot. So rises would be when, you know, the sun rises, right? Something goes from down to up. However, if you're talking about concerns and issues and ideas that are brought up, but not in a physical way as much as a theoretical way, like it's not like concerns literally go from the bottom to the top. It's just that they, you know, go from being hidden to being on the surface, but there's no physical way to show that. Then you're using raises, which is a different verb, right? So it would actually be, Eulachon are in danger of becoming extinct, which raises concerns to shrimpers because they want to avoid regulations that might affect their industry. So now this becomes a proper grammatical sentence. So the first thing, and that's really, I'm going to try to limit the amount of grammar stuff I do, one grammar thing per video, just for the sake of keeping you guys all awake. So that's how you do a complex sentence. And now we're going to look at whether or not this paper actually answered the prompt. You'll remember the prompt called for you to identify your position and then prove your position. So here we have, I think it's a good general sentence that indicates the knowledge the student has about the topic, right? We're dealing with extinction, and we're dealing with extinction of a specific species brought on by shrimpers, right? And so this student also mentions that shrimpers want to avoid regulations, and that's one reason why this extinction of this Eulachon is especially important. So all of that is great. Then we go on to, in order to prevent their extinction, several strategies have been tested in order to provide a solution to the bycatch of this specific species whenever shrimpers are out fishing. Again, remember, whenever doesn't need the comma. The other thing is, look at the amount of times this phrase is repeated. This usually, when you're repeating a phrase like this, indicates that there's some redundancy. So in order to prevent their extinction, several strategies have been tested to provide a solution to the bycatch of this specific species. Now, it's a specific part of plural species, right? Whenever shrimpers are out fishing. Now, for me, I'm kind of unclear as to what this sentence is actually saying. In order to prevent their extinction, several strategies have been tested to provide a solution to the bycatch of... Okay, so essentially what this person is saying, in order to prevent their extinction, several strategies have been tested to get rid of the amount of bycatch, right? That be as clear and concise as possible to avoid your readers getting confused. What this person is saying is, because extinction is imminent, we have to figure out a way to get rid of or lessen the amount of bycatch. Why bycatch? Because bycatch is where we're catching these Eulachon, sorry. In passage A, we are provided with the idea of using LED lights, and in passage B, we take notice that yes, these LED lights may work, and it acknowledges that the bycatch of these Eulachon have decreased, but not to a significant extent. Again, knowing the different form of your word. Extend is used as a verb. This is being used as, I want to say, actually, but not to a significant, is actually being used as a noun. This would be the noun form, extent. Both passages provide enough evidence to support that there are various effective ways to prevent the extinction of Eulachon, and that they have been put to practice and are indeed helping in the reduction of bycatch of these endangered species. Now, all of this is okay, except we have to identify what we believe is the better strategy, and nowhere here have we identified what's the better strategy. And so for that reason, the reader might say, identify your position, right? And when I say identify your position, what that could mean is right here, so you say Eulachon are in danger of becoming extinct, which raises concerns to shrimpers because they want to avoid regulations that might affect their industry. One strategy brought up in passage A is, now notice for tenses, I'm going to stick with present tense because this student gave me present tense, right? So our one strategy brought up in passage A is using LED lights, and another strategy is using, I want to use exactly, okay. Oh, it's actually here. I'm sorry. So is using LEDs, and another strategy is using a smaller size grate. So that's not here, which is something else that we want to take note. Oh, it is here. It's just that we get to it really late. So decreasing the size of the grates, right? So one strategy brought up in passage A is using LED lights, and another strategy is using a smaller sized grate. Now we have to have a sentence that actually indicates our argument. I am going to be safe in assuming that this person, this student, really doesn't have a position, so I'm going to make one up just so we see how it would work. While both passages present evidence to support their position, passage A makes a stronger argument, and therefore I believe, right? It can be I believe, or it can just be what your position is. LED lights are the better solution for, both passages present evidence for, well, see, we don't even have to frame it like this, do we? Because the actual prompt just called for, are there effective ways to prevent extinction? And so now I'm trying to see if this student can actually okay. So ignore everything that I just said, and instead I overcomplicated it. I apologize. All you really have to do here is both passages provide enough evidence to support that there are various, instead of saying both passages provide, you have to make it clear that it's your position. So you would say there are effective ways to prevent the extinction of Eulachon. And then what you do is you have body paragraphs that indicate why you believe this is true. Again, I'm sorry for that. So what we have then, and I'm going to now get rid of all of this extra stuff so that we see what the actual paper will look like. All right. Eulachon are in danger of becoming extinct, which raises concerns to shrimpers because they want to avoid regulations that might affect their industry. In order to prevent their extinction, several strategies have been tested to get rid of the amount of bycatch. In passage A, and now what I would recommend is we get rid of this because we are going to talk about the passages later on. Instead, we're just going to have this sentence. There are effective ways to prevent the extinction of Eulachon. And then get rid of this, and you can say research proves there are effective ways to prevent the extinction of Eulachon. Now what we have to do is identify reason number 1. We know that there is an effective way to prevent the extinction of Eulachon. So reason number 1. We are provided with a solution to use LED lights on the ships in order to provide visual guidance to the Eulachon so they can either dodge the grates or even avoid coming into them when shrimps are being captured. Remember, when, indication that this is a dependent clause, so we don't need the comma. By dodging the grates, thanks to the light provided, the capturing of Eulachon will decrease. Various educated biologists with experience in marine life have tested the strategy and feel that this solution is very effective and low cost. Now I want you to notice something. Various educated biologists with experience in marine life. This looks like it might be a subject and a verb, but in fact it's just a subject. You're just telling me that there are various educated biologists, but you don't tell me what they're actually doing. And so for that reason, there shouldn't be no comma separating this from anything else, because remember, a sentence, and this is not a complex sentence, this is just what's known as a simple sentence. A simple sentence should not separate its subject from its verb. So various educated biologists with experience in marine life have tested, that's the verb, the strategy and feel that this solution is very effective and low cost. That is a fabulous sentence. When put to practice, fishermen captured virtually nothing but shrimp, which was the initial aim. So notice now, this is fabulous because it's explaining how there are effective ways to prevent the extinction of Eulachon, right? What I would recommend is having a topic sentence that, instead of being all about the passage, talks about what your reason for your argument is. So an example of that would be one effective way of preventing Eulachon extinction is through LED lights. And then you can say in passage A, we are provided, passage A explains the LED lights on the ships are used in order to provide visual. So now I'm hoping that you guys see this, but what having a topic sentence really does, it allows your reader to see that this is your argument. This is not just a summary of what the passage is saying. So this is perfect. In passage B, the article suggests that a reduction has occurred, but more action needs to be taken and regulations should be modified further. The passage suggests playing around with the size and spacing of the grates, which is the net used to capture the shrimp, in order to provide less entry of these Eulachon, in order to provide an even more. So this sentence is a run-on. So that would need to be corrected immediately. When reduced to a smaller size of 0.75, the changes of not capturing a Eulachon have shown to increase. The changes of, so the way that this sentence is structured is unclear to me as well. But aside from that, I want us to follow the same strategy that we did up above. So topic sentence number 2. Is there another effective way? There is another effective way in preventing the Eulachon extinction is through reduction of grate size. And then we talk about what passage B says about that. And you might want to make this sentence come lower, because this sentence doesn't really have to do with how it's resolving extinction as much as a summary of the actual passage. So that would be a good idea. Now we have this passage suggests playing around with the size and spacing of the grates. Playing around, I'm not a huge fan of that. It's informal, and we'll talk about voice. You might want to say the passage suggests altering the size and space of the grates, which is the net used to capture the shrimp. In order to provide less entry of these Eulachon, in order to provide an even, and so this in order to is making a lot of these sentences run-ons. What I would suggest is using in order to in one part of a sentence, but not duplicating it twice, because now what happens is this is a run-on, which is so we could end the sentence here. The passage is just playing around, or let me put what I actually said, altering the size and spacing of the grates, which is the net used to capture the shrimp. Now, the alteration of size will provide less entry of these Eulachon in order to provide an even more significant reduction of bycatch. In order to is one of those phrases that you could just get rid of, and usually nothing changes. So the alteration of size will provide less entry of these Eulachon to provide, and now we have the repetition of provide, to have an even more significant reduction of bycatch. Okay, that works. When reduced to a smaller size, The changes of not capturing a Eulachon have shown to increase. Now, this is just awkward because of the way you use not capturing. Instead, you can say when reduced to a smaller size of 0.75, the amount of Eulachon, captured decreased, right? In passage B, the article suggests that a reduction has occurred, but more action needs to be taken and regulations should be modified further. That works. Both strategies have been practiced, right? There have been practiced. I'm being annoying about this because tense is something you really need to pay attention to. And the reason why it's practiced is because of the verbs that you used ahead of it. Have, been are past, so practiced should be in past too. By biologists and wildlife experts who are educated in this field, and many statistical work has been done as well to provide evidence that there are ways in which Eulachon can be preserved and be safe from becoming extinct due to bycatch when fishing for shrimp. So I'm unsure what this paragraph is actually doing. I think that this is just sort of talking for the sake of word count, and I would get rid of it. One may argue that decreasing the size of the grates can also provide more work for shrimpers because it is limiting the space for shrimps to enter the grates. However, the graph provides evidence that the amount of shrimps are in no way affected by the resizing of the grates. Providing LED lights does help Eulachon to dodge the grates. However, it does not affect the capturing of shrimps either. Now, what I want to say about this is an excellent way to address a counterclaim and punch it in the face. So what this student has done, the counterclaim that they're addressing is, hey, yeah, that's great that we can preserve the amount of Eulachon that exists, but then we're going to also decrease the amount of shrimp we catch. So we can't do this. And so what this student has done is say, actually, based on what this graph shows, the amount of shrimp caught is not affected. And so what she's done in doing that is, one, she's addressed the counterclaim, but two, she also has incorporated evidence from the graph because that was the only source that wasn't part of the rest of the paper. And for that reason, this part would be excellent. Now, as the paper was before we revised, it would get a 2.5, 3 out of 4. With the changes, though, that we've made, and keep in mind there are still things that we need to add, this could get a 3.5 out of 4. The thing that we need to do still, though, which is why I'm not giving it a 4 out of 4, or I'm hesitant to, is we need a clearer conclusion. And I would, even though this is an okay introduction, I still would want a better understanding of what the student's thesis statement was, what the student's argument was. And so once that's done, and once some of these other sentences are corrected in terms of being run-ons, this would be a perfect 4 out of 4 paper. Now, I'm uploading this on YouTube. If you have a YouTube username and or account, you can comment with any questions that you have if they're really urgent and you want me to attend to them. Otherwise, any questions, comments, concerns, you can feel free to let me know on Monday, or really whenever, when we see each other in class, okay? I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and I look forward to seeing you on Monday.